Hello, and welcome back to Cosmic Alchemy Roots. Welcome back. Peace and blessings to you and your family, Cosmic Love. Today we're going to do the companion reading of my daughter and me through Ancestral Astrology. I'm trying to keep myself like I write everything and put it into a script because I'm trying to time myself because I know I can talk. But this one may be a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to not have to keep you guys here that long. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate you sitting here and allowing me to share this with you. So today we're going to do the companion chart of me and my daughter through Ancestral Astrology. And companion chart is me basically sharing a chart of my chart and my daughter's chart and looking at the evolution in different houses. Me and her share because I come to do one thing, she comes to do another, and that's the explanation of how ancestral lineage works, how bloodline works. But I want to, before I begin that, I want to talk to you about the grandmother egg in etymology. It's about let me explain it. Okay, the grandmother, say my grandmother, when she was pregnant with my mother, she was holding me because my grandmother was holding my mother and my mother was holding the eggs. I believe I'm getting right. She was holding the eggs because we as females get the eggs of what we have when we're born, and that's all the eggs we have, and that's it. So my grandmother was holding my mother and me all at once. So that was like 3 generations. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's deep. And I believe it's deep because the fact of the matter, the stories and the change within that DNA, the stories and the change within those emotions. Like, imagine your grandmother being pregnant with your mother and the emotions that she had. Because when you're pregnant, your baby feels everything that you feel. And imagine emotions that she had. It correlated down to not only my mother, but it correlated down to me and came down to me also too. And I thought that was such an awesome thing, and it's such crazy and it's so awesome at the same time. Because when I learned that, I was like, I never heard of such. No one ever explained it to me, but it explained a lot of things of what I see, not only within my family but other families. It was like, oh, it turned a light bulb in my head, like now it's coming together. Now I understand. Now I see why things are the way they are sometimes. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, a little bit of knowledge that I learned, and it's so much more to learn about genetics and stuff like that with like people who experience things and their family still feels it. Like, it's a book I was reading, and they were talking about Holocaust, and they were saying how within a study, how one person, how their ancestor experienced the Holocaust, and then, I mean, many years down the line, the other person still feeling the anxiety, the scarcity, and other stuff that person felt. That is crazy. So imagine. But I always remember learning when I was in school of how with African Americans, when it came down to slavery, when it came down not only to slavery, but when it came down to even those civil rights, everything that happened in our lineages, how it has been affecting us now, how the grief, like I said, my 12th house, I have my grief, my more memory, and it came down to us and how it has created the stress and anxiety of the issues that we go through. But that can be another video and we can discuss that. I don't want to get too far into that, but I just wanted to share that for context when speaking of ancestral astrology and going in cosmic codes and reading the cosmic codes that our ancestors left us. So let's begin the companion reading. I'm going to be back and forth as usual with my computer, guys, and reading and remembering some of the things. I'm going to try to keep in line with time so that I do not go over. And and like I said, I want this time. I appreciate you taking the time, so I don't want it to waste it. So let's begin. Okay. First of all, we're gonna start first, like when I started with the 12th house. With the 12th house, I share with you guys that I had Uranus and Scorpio and Moon, and that's born memory of ancestral emotional repression, silence, and it was me coming through. They were asking me, hey, to remember, um, to tell the stories of your ancestor. So let me go back. Um, so this is about inheritance, memory, and evolution. Astrology is when we're looking at it through ancestral lens again. Um, we begin this in order to heal the lines, and then, like I said, it doesn't happen in one lifetime. It goes through generation. Think about the grandmother, mother, and granddaughter situation of pregnancy, and what this reminding me is healing happens across bodies, across generations, across mother and child, and sometimes the child arrives carrying the next chapter of the story that the parent began. Um, this is not. Every story is different, and my story is one of those stories where I did this and my child came for something else. Okay, so let's begin. Oh, I wrote that down so I didn't realize. I want to make sure I told you guys the correct way because I did write it down. I didn't think I wrote it down. Maternal lineage, the three generations. Your grandmother carried three generations exist at the same time. The grandmother, the daughter she's carrying, and the eggs that will one day become the grandchild. So I did explain it correctly. Um, so let's begin to the chart. Let's begin at my chart. Scorpio moon across generations. Because my Scorpio moon is in the 12th house in my chart. Like I said, it's for deep ancestral memory. The moon represents the emotions. Always remember the moon represents the maternal inheritance emotions, the maternal line, emotional inheritance of the maternal line. Scorpio always are transformation and rebirth. Um, and it's also about grief, secrets, and emotional underworld. So with the 12th house of spiritual karma, 12th house, I said soul's release. 12th house holds spiritual karma. 12th house holds hidden places of the psyche, the ancestral veil, spaces where wounds live before they're spoken. And 12th house also holds where the spiritual gifts are. It does hold, but like I said, each natal chart is different, but it does hold a little bit where you have space in there. There's some type of spiritual gift you possibly have. Um, the companion chart, we're going to talk about Scorpio moon across generations because we're going to talk about me and my daughter natal chart and through the ancestral astrology lens. First, in my chart, I carry Scorpio moon in the 12th house. Scorpio moon in the 12th house represent ancestral memory, carrying deep ancestral memory in your bones, their stories, and their griefs. The moon represents emotional inheritance and the maternal line. Scorpio represents transformation, grief, secrets, and the emotional underworld. The 12th house is house souls ancestral release, asking what can the lineage release that no longer serves them. And 12th house is spiritual karma, is hidden places of the psyche, the ancestral veil, the space where the wound lived before they are spoken, and places in ancestral in the 12th house holds also spiritual gifts also. So that's like ancestral grief wrapped in mystery, wrapped in secrecy, emotions that were too deep, too painful, or dangerous to name. Um, let's see. With that placement again, like I spoke, it's like a psychic archivist of the bloodline. I always feel like an archaeologist, ancestral archaeologist, going through natal charts. But again, the 12th house is a keeper of emotional stories that were never spoken out loud. Um, but they ask you, the body remember what no one else can name. And it carry emotions inward. It carry the dreams, intuition, silence. Um, and that's what was in my chart. But my daughter arrived. And when my daughter arrived, she carries the same Scorpio moon, but hers is in the first house. So hers comes in the first house as a reincarnated lineage, reincarnated soul. So this is the house of identity, visibility, embodiment, and the sign that changed everything, that shift changes in everything. And it's no longer hidden. The live hidden that was in my 12, it becomes visible in her. So she comes to carry the emotional energy and the lineage on the surface of her being. Like she comes to say, she carried it, but I'm no longer carrying it. I'm speaking about it. I'm going to say what needs to be said. When my Scorpio moon absorbed the grief inward, her Scorpio moon expresses emotional truth outward, and she does. She, ever since she's been a baby, a little girl, she's like, no, this is what I feel, and this is what da 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 da. So she becomes the emotional where my soul called forth, not to repeat the grief, not to repeat the stories. She's not here for that. That's why I say it's a two-parter with me and her, and with generational, especially with me and her, because mine was in 12th house and here hers come in the first house. Like she's the soul's arrival. She's going to show it. She's going to talk about it. Um, and like I said, she's not here to repeat the grief, but to make it conscious, name it, and heal in real time. And she does. Like I said, I carried the wound inward, and she carried the healing outward, because this shows in her identity. This is her soul's arrival coming. She is a daughter of my shadow, and I don't want to make it like shadow, but it helps see. I would say daughter of my shadow healing way, because, like I said, I'll talk about it more because I want to talk about it now. But as we go along, you'll see how she appears in my chart actually. Um, so, and this is how she appears in my chart. In my eighth house, remember in the eighth house, eighth house is the soul's contract, but it's also the core karmic bridge between me and my daughter, where the lineage changes hands. Um, the bridge in the eighth house, this is the deepest bridge that me and her share in astrology. The eighth house represents, again, remember I says ancestral inheritance, transformation, and soul contracts of things the lineage patterns needs to change between generations. And in my chart, my eighth house, my Lilith and vertex is in Cancer, along with Jupiter in Gemini. Well, she's a Gemini baby. So I felt like she showed up in my chart without me even knowing until I started studying ancestral astrology. So Lilith in Cancer speaks to represent feminine in the lineage, feminine energy in the lineage. The emotional part of the maternal line were silence, mothering that may not have been safe, vulnerability that had no place to land. This was the part of me exiled by duty, by survival, by ancestral expectations. Like, and then with the vertex in Cancer, it marks the fated emotional encounter, a soul mirror meant to awaken the wound. Often the vertex activates now through relationships and very often activate through children. So I felt like her showing up in there. Then my daughter arrives, like I said, and her eighth house holds Mercury. Her eighth house holds Mercury, Saturn, the North Node, and Vertex in Gemini. Mercury tells us she arrived with a voice. She came to speak what I could not say. Saturn tells us she carries responsibility, a responsibility to bring structure and boundaries to emotional chaos. The North Node in Gemini reveals the direction of her soul path. Her evolution moves toward curiosity, communication, and learning, toward asking questions rather than hiding truths. And the vertex confirms that this meeting was destined as a sacred soul contract. She did not come to repeat my fate. She came to evolve it when I carried a grief in the body. So with her in my eighth house, I love to say she carries truth in her throat. She's just not my child. She's the one who's speaking the healing. And I wanted, because that eighth house, that blew me away with her showing, because that vertex was, I believe my vertex was in Gemini. And I'm like, she was the soul mirror that was needed. And you just don't know the relationship that me and my daughter have come from, of growing, growing, I can say growing together and learning together. She has helped me with recognizing and speaking my emotions and being truthful and being vulnerable, because she's my child and I want the best for her, and I want to be truthful, and I want to let her know that I'm here. So it helped being a mom to help me to speak my truth, speak my emotions, be vulnerable, and to be there for my daughter as best as I can be emotionally, and be emotionally aware and speak that truth. And another thing, we're going back again to the companion chart as a reflection from hidden grief to living truth, because remember, my Scorpio moon is with my 12th, hers coming to the 1st. When we look at me and her chart together, the pattern, the evolution of the Scorpio moon, because that is the one thing that got me, was like, whoa. It's about the hidden karmic memory to embody emotional truth. The 8th house shifts from emotional entanglement to conscious communication. Because you got to remember, with that Gemini, it's like we had to speak it, we had to show it, we had to become. And also with that Lilith in here also too, it was like, nah, you can't hide this no more. You need to speak, and you need to speak it, and you need to show it. It cannot be repressed. Remember that 12th house of mine was releasing the silence of emotions, of emotional regression, releasing the silence of not speaking about it, releasing the grief. So with that 8th house, it was like, boom, this is how we're gonna allow you to come and evolve in the lineage. Again, that's another healing within my chart. Just as healings are in my chart for my womb, it is in your chart also too. So that's another healing from my 12th to my 8th that carries me and shows me this is how you are able to heal from that. This is how you're able to evolve from that. And my daughter shows up there for me to help me evolve from that, to release and not carry that in a lineage anymore. And then she comes through. As she comes through, she allows me to be vulnerable because she's vulnerable. She's speaking her truth. She's speaking her emotion, and she has to release it. She's not carrying that like how I carried it in the 12th house no more. So, like again, I said the 8th house shifted from the emotional entanglement, the chaos that was there, to conscious communication, to speaking, into engaging into our emotional truth and evolution. And like I said, with that Lilith there also too, feminine power moves from repressed shadow into daily embodied liberation. This is not repetition. This is spiritual. This is spirit. This is evolution. This is evolution. This is us growing within our lineage. We're not repeating the story. We're moving forward into where we are going. The next language brings the language to heal. She brings the language to heal. She brings the language. She brings. I wish I could meet her, because she is such a person who speaks. Like when she feels it, she speaks it. And she has, and I always remember with my children growing up, I always like, you can always speak. It's the way you construct and how you structure it. You just can't come off the wall crazy saying things. You have to be able to put it together pretty. If you can't able to put it together, I mean, we're going to communicate it regardless. So, and we're going to move forward. So this is my closing right now. So this is the thing. In that, I feel like it helped my family to heal. And looking in that, I also, because my sun chart, it shows me and his father also in there. I can't remember, because it's Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius. His father's a Virgo, and it shows up actually in his chart, and that's so fun. I'm like, wow, I wonder if other people show up in their children's chart also too, because we show up in our daughter chart. Well, I show my daughter, my daughter shows up in my chart, and then I show up my son chart. Me and his father show up, but that goes again to show the spirit, the ancestral evolution and ancestral astrology. That goes again to show the blood lineage. That goes to show how growth happens over a period of time, over generations of time, and that to know that. Again, these cosmic codes are for us to heal. These cosmic codes for us to evolve. This cosmic code is for us to walk in the purpose, to heal in our purpose, to speak in our purpose. It's so much things that we can do with these energies in our charts, in our homes, in our houses. And I love the way I saw it through my daughter, and I was like, oh, wow. It just showed me the maternal lineage and how the maternal lineage can actually develop and move and go create. And who knows, with her daughter comes down, we may not have a moon Scorpio anymore. We may not have Scorpio moons anymore. Or we may have Scorpio moons, and it may move to communication. It may move to something else, but I can't wait into the next generation just to see how it moves, because there's healing going on in this process now. There's healing going on in this family. There's talk going on in this family. Things are changing. So I would love to see what the next generation has. Anyway, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for allowing me to have your time. And until next time, peace and blessings to you and your family. And I'll see you next time. Bye now.